always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. I want to begin by reading a portion of that first lesson. Please don't read along with me. I want you just to listen to the words of Isaiah chapter 6. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lofty, and the hem of his robe filled the temple. Seraphs were in attendance above him. Each had 6 wings. With 2 they covered their faces, and with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. The pivots on the thresholds shook at the voice of those who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Oh, woe is me. I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. Yet my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. This passage was transformed for me some time ago. I was at a gathering, and that was the text that was read in our time of worship. And the man who stood to read it started weeping. If you've ever tried to read and weep at the same time, you know it's difficult. But it absolutely and utterly transformed that text for me. It was his favorite. And it was his favorite because it was as though he were Isaiah, looking at the holiness of God, the presence of God. And the words, woe is me. How am I here? How am I in the presence of the holiness of God? In the liturgical cycle, we always have Trinity Sunday, the Sunday after Pentecost. And it's the only Sunday in the liturgical year that's dedicated to the doctrine of the Trinity, or any doctrine that's specific. And I know that that is not exciting. In fact, among clergy, it's kind of this thing. If you have a church big enough to have multiple staff, the rector usually tries to find the assistant or the curate or the deacon to preach on Trinity Sunday. Because it's, first of all, you're in danger of committing heresy when you start trying to talk about who God is, thinking that you're going to be able to say much at all. That's one of the dangers. Another is that it just doesn't seem relevant to people. That's what I hear anyway. Why do we have Trinity Sunday? It's just, it's in the back of the prayer book under the Athanasian Creed, and that's enough. As long as it stays hidden in the back, and it's one Sunday a year, we do God honor, and then we move on. Talk about something relevant, like love. Love's relevant. How we love each other and what love is, that's relevant. So here's the challenge, is that I would like you to walk out of here today having experienced the holiness of God. Number one. number 2, to convince you or convict you about the importance of what this day in the life of the Christian community, this celebration of Trinity, is really about. Let's start with that business of love. How many of you heard Bishop Curry's sermon at the royal wedding? Yeah, most of you could. You can look it up online or whatever. I'm sure it's going to be around a while. It's a great sermon. A lot about love. And there's a lot of, feedback. See, I'm a preacher, so I'm always interested in what gets listened to and what people respond positively to, and what they have responded to is it's about love. But can relate to that. And I think that's fascinating. Really? Can relate to love? Let's examine that just for a moment. Can you tell me what love is? I mean, I'm pretty sure that we could be in some agreement that it exists. Right? Love exists. Love is a real thing, isn't it? If we go too far to try to explain what it is, we always wind up, but wait, there's more. Because that's how love is. If I say, well, love is a feeling between two people, well, yes, that's true, but it's more than that, isn't it? Love is how we treat another person. Well, yeah, it's that, but it's also more, isn't it? It's much more. The text that the bishop was using in that sermon, it's from Song of Solomon. He says, love is as strong as death, or stronger. So what is it? I don't know, but I know it's real. I know it exists. All right, let me blow your mind. Does beauty exist? Is it a real thing?
Yes.
I think that it is. I think that beauty actually exists. And here's how I want to say it, that I know that it exists. Because the iris are in bloom. Right now. There's one in my yard that's right under my bird feeder. It's bright purple, and it's just, they're kind of a weird blossom, but they're just the most outstanding, amazing thing. Now, you could argue that when you look at an iris that's in full bloom, that you're looking at some plant tissue, and the color perception that you have is the light refracting in the cells on there that are refracting little things in your eye, and your optic nerves going into your brain, having a little electrical phenomenon going on. And I perceive that that's a purple flower. Have I described what is happening? Yes. That is what is happening. But have I described the beauty of an iris? Not even remotely. Because there is something about the reality of that shape, that color, that intricacy. It's different than every other kind of flower. And if you get really close to it, then it gets even more amazing. And so amazing, in fact, you look at it and you say, how can this be? And it leaves you breathless. And that breathlessness is beauty. It exists. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it is. I don't know why it is. I just know that it is. And there are lots of things that will gobstop me into breathlessness by their amazing beauty. So love exists and beauty exists. Music, same thing. What is music? So it's tonality, one object hits another object and there's a wave that's created. It's a short wave or a long wave, depending. And it goes into this little membrane, and then it does another electrical little thing somehow in your brain, and you perceive a high-pitched sound or a low-pitched sound. Is that music? No. Well, yes, but no. No, because music has the ability to reach inside of you and rip your guts out. A song can just one thing to another through air and wind, and this whole apparatus, which, by the way, is phenomenal, that any of that can even happen. But it doesn't explain what music actually is. And yet I know that it is. I know that it is. So love and beauty and music, I'm going to say those are evidences of what this whole Trinity business is about. It is about the reality of God, who is all love and all beauty, the author of all music, the author of all intricacy. The Trinity, the doctrine of it, the tradition of it in the church is fumbly human language that tries to wrap around this intense mystery of the one who is. The one for whom the angels cover their eyes. It's amazing how they fly around the heavenly throne with their eyes covered and their feet covered, and they sing, holy, holy, holy is the Lord. What do they see? What are they experiencing? It is that depth of mystery, of life itself, that we get glimpses of it. Sometimes it'll take us right straight down to our core. And it ought to. That's why we have this particular teaching in the church and why it is understood to be essential. Because as soon as you try to define God, you can't define God. God will not be defined. As soon as you think you understand the Trinity, bam! You don't understand anything. And sometimes the most powerful way, when you come to that place where you realize that you are so small and God is so awesome, is just be silent and let your breath be taken away by God's goodness, God's love, God's holiness, God's reality. Oh, and then let your mind just roll over all of the ways, if Scripture's to be believed, all the ways in which that one interacts with humankind and has over the centuries, just so that we can be gobstopped a little bit more. So that you and I can know the power of God's reality and have it lift us up out of the crud that is so often all we see. I have an assignment for you. I have an assignment in the next 7 days, and I mean it. Go. The assignment is this: that you are open to being gobstopped by the mystery, by the beauty, and by the love of God, by the presence of God, every day, at least once, for the next 7 days. You have to be open to that. You have to purposefully wake up in the morning and say, Lord, bring it on. Because we get distracted by the busyness of our life, we can look at mystery and say, well, you know, mystery is nice for some people who have time for it. You know, it's sort of like art. That's fine for those people that do art. You know, it's over there. But life is serious and life is stern and life, we've got to get things done over here. That's reality. And God, the Holy Spirit, God the Son, God the Father, God breaks into all of that and breathes over it and says, lift up your eyes and understand. There isn't anything around you that I haven't put there, that I haven't put my little signature on, to bless you, to give you a sense of my presence, to let you know you're not alone, and to let you experience holiness. It's not our holiness. It's God's holiness. And I believe God's holiness that is so present in this world that if we would allow ourselves to be God-stopped at least once a day, that lives might just get changed by that reality, because it's not about us. We are a very self-focused species. I mean, we just are. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole, but all around us is evidence of God's amazing reality. Tonight, you get an easy pass. You know why? You'll probably be able to see stars. Go out and look up at them. Yes, they twinkle and they're pretty and they're bright. Think how far away they are, and how big they are, and how small you are, and how long it took for the light from that star to get to your eyes. That star may not even exist anymore. I mean, it's just mind-bending realities that are all around us. We're not alone. The one who created all of that and all of us, in all of our intricacy, and in all of our love, and in all of our beauty, and in all of our music. You and I are created in the image and likeness of God. That dynamic reality of who God is has touched every single human being. Every single one, without exception. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute now. There are some kind of ugly human beings. And I don't mean ugly face, although, whatever. But I'm talking about ugly inside. But don't you know that God's there too? Who else but God could take what is broken and disfigured and unholy and make it clean? That's why Isaiah is suddenly aware of his own smallness, feelings, unholiness. Woe is me, I am a man of unclean lips, among a people of unclean lips, and yet I have seen the King. Be God-stopped